Hello friends, welcome to that 1870s homestead. My name's Rachel. We're back in the garden, resetting onions again and pulling weeds. Trying to really get ready for this growing season. And trying a couple different but not new to us things to manage the weeds. So in the last episode, we showed you guys, what did we show you? Oh, flame weeding. So I'll give you an update on that today, how it's been a few days, I think, since we did that. And I'll show you an update on that. My goal today is to get this front bed finished weeding, give you an update on the flame weeding that we did in that bed, and then get the rest of the landscape fabric out of the garden and flame weed that initially. What I think I'm going to do with this front bed, at least half of it right now, is get a new strawberry bed going. That's what I think I want to do. And I've got lots of like volunteer strawberry plants all right here. And lots back in the corner. So I don't think I'm going to get that done today, but that's what I'm thinking. We just don't need as much growing space right now in the garden, and it's a good way for me to get growing more fruit than what's growing in our orchard. So I have an update too on that huge weed that I asked for you guys' help on identifying, and I think we've identified it. Nice find right here, a nice patch of black-eyed Susan, which I have growing outside the fence right here, that I guess seeded over here or something. Not sure, but we're gonna take it out and transplant that. I love growing flowers, perennial flowers that, or plants for that matter, that you can harvest from, because they'll just keep self-seeding and get bigger and bigger, and then transplant them around your property. So there's weed in here too, so I'll take that weed out. If you guys don't deal with creeping Charlie, it's like part of the mint family, I believe. And I'll show you how it grows real quick. So this is it. It's a pretty ground cover. It has these beautiful purple flowers in the spring, and the bees absolutely thrive on it. And it is herbal and medicinal, but, okay, so it just creeps along the ground and then has really fibrous type root system. It's the best way I could describe it. And I don't know if you leave any of those fibers per se in the ground, will it come back? I haven't quite figured that out, but it is a beast. It's nice when it's in one layer because it just comes up really easy, but if it's matted in on itself, it is so difficult to get up. Remember in the last episode we brought the hay home for our return to Ruth Stout, and I told you in that video I'm going to share with you some lessons learned on bringing in different mulches, amendments for your garden, and just personally my lessons learned. So let's do that now so I don't forget. When you're bringing in hay or straw, you really need to make sure that that hay or straw has not been sprayed with herbicides or pesticides, specifically herbicides, even if you don't care about like organic food, because an herbicide spray can kill off and actually damage your soil that may take years to recover from. So that happened to me one year. That's how I know this. I brought in straw that I didn't check whether or not it had been sprayed. Clearly it had. And my plants died just immediately at the root system. The roots kind of just shriveled up and went away to nothing. The other thing is, so that's hard to find, first off, in certain areas, and it's kind of hard for me to find. But thankfully I've got a couple sources. So my best advice to you is just contact the farmer. You hope that they're honest people, and ask, has this hay or straw been sprayed? And then regarding compost, so there's kind of two options for bringing in compost, right? You can go to a big box store and buy it in bags, or you can buy it in bulk from a compost maker. And that's really, really tricky. So if you're buying it in bags from big box stores, you will have weeds. I'm just telling you that now. There is not a compost I've bought from, and I've bought several different brands and types from a big box store that hasn't had weed seed in it. So I think it's just the nature of the beast with that. And then a lot of them actually have like lots of plastics and inorganic matter. In the compost that you're then forever finding in your garden. And a lot of people, really don't want plastics in their garden where they're growing their food. So that's my issue with big box store compost, is don't think that you're getting it and that you're not going to have weeds. You will. And no telling what weeds you'll have. You may introduce something brand new to your garden, like a weed that I have now that I've never had until 2 years ago. And I'm almost positive it came in with that bulk compost I bought. So the same can happen with bulk compost. My advice for buying in bulk compost is go see the facility. Understand where they're getting their sources from. Look at the compost yourself. Pick it up with your hands and look through it. I only done that once, and I was so thoroughly disappointed in that compost. Number one, it had tons of rocks. And I live, if you guys are not new here, you've seen my garden, and what I struggle with is keeping the organic matter I add to my garden because I have such sandy soil. So the sand just eats all that goodness, it takes it all in. And so I have no rock naturally in my garden. And that was really, really frustrating to go in with your shovel or go to draw a perfect row for planting and hit a rock. Very highly disappointed in that. So my only advice with that respect is really understand the compost and where it's coming from. So things to consider is, say that they're getting a lot of manure and hay from farms in the area. What are those farms feeding their animals? Are they grass-fed? Are they fed hay? And has that hay been sprayed? Because all those chemicals just pass through, in their feces that they're using then to make the compost. So it may be look and sound organic, but in reality it may not be. So just not to make you too worried about it, but the best thing to do is make your own. But it's hard to make enough on scale, especially for us small, homesteaders. So that's just my thoughts on that. So that's why I am going back to Ruth Stout. I'm not going to be bringing in outside source compost anymore. I'm just going to let nature do its thing, breaking down the hay annually and then supplementing with my own, chicken yard compost that I make. So my thoughts there. If you guys have any thoughts and you've had good experiences and bad experiences with either mulch and or vine and compost, leave it in the comments below, because I think there's just so much that especially new gardeners don't think of and not take for granted. They just are not experienced enough to know what things to look for and what to expect. So there, I got that one out of the way, and this is going to be a slow process, but it's a beautiful morning. It's actually chilly. Yesterday it was like 77, and we woke up this morning, it was 40 degrees. So I only have a little bit of time today. We're actually selling our boat. Very sad. Very sad. But we're going to go land-based adventures now in the adventure van. So the boat's going to go. Can only have so many toys and only time for so many toys. So that's the plan, and I think I got to go wash the boat today because somebody's going to be coming to look at it. All right, so when I get done with this, we'll take a peek. I'll let you know if I found any other goodies in here, and then we'll probably start ripping up landscape fabric. I just saw dirt on my face. Two things I was thinking. Well, lots of things I was thinking. Do you guys think a lot when you're out in the garden? So many things. So weeding. Probably one of my favorite memories as a child with my mom was weeding her front flower beds around the house. Because it was like, there was a bunch of us. And it was like I was the only one that enjoyed doing it. So it was the way I got one-on-one time with my mom. And she's long gone past. And so just thinking about that I love the thought of weeding because it's nostalgic for me. But weeding without company isn't as fun. So I can dread weeding when it's just me and I'm not focused on having a good thought time with myself, using it as intentional time. So I try to use this ugliness as intentional time to just, think on things and pray or whatever I need to work on. And then shifting total topics. First year ever, I'm using gloves, gardening or working in the soil. And I have just found that the older I get, my cuticles can't take the abuse like they used to. So what I've found is I can't work in heavy duty gloves, but I can work in these cheap like latex medical gloves. So Todd buys them in like big boxes, and that's my saving grace for my fingers. And then looky there. We have just an abundance of earthworms in this bed, and I'm so thankful for that. Okay, two more thoughts while they're on top of my mind. My favorite tool to weed, really to do a lot of things, is my hori. So it has a nice sharp serrated edge on this side. This used to be sharp on this side, and then it's a spade-like system. Used to have a nice handle on it. That's long died, and now it is an oven, cast iron oven mitt thing. And then, like I said, rocks. Like, I'm not joking. It's not like little tiny pebbles. It's great big rocks. When I find them, I throw them out of my garden. Weeds. So this whole section behind me, pretty much from here back, I did last week. And I'll show you an up-close picture of it. Here, let's just do it right now so I don't forget. So see all the green? Weeds. will germinate at, at different times. Any kind of seed left over in your garden, whether it's a perennial weed like rhizome based or seeds that have sprouted. So it's a good idea if you're weeding. Don't think that you're just going to get away with like a once and done type scenario. Weeds are a constant management process, and especially here when you know you have your best shot to get on top of it is early in the growing season, and do it in like at least 3-week increments. Come back each week and see, did anything new sprout? And if you want your best chance at it. Now, I'll tell you, I'm not going to have time to do that. But while I do have the time, I'll manage things like this, where they're growing back where I just had a perfectly blank slate. So we'll hit that with the flame weeder. And we'll continue to use the flame weeder probably every 3 days in the garden until I get my hay mulch down. So, and then the last funny thought I had was, man, I have quite the diversity in weeds in this section. Like a lot of it, I don't even know what it is. But I've got crabgrass, I have clover, I have this awful ground cover stuff that gets like really pretty, like indigo purple flowers in late summer, but it's all throughout my garden and I deal with it all the time. And you can suppress, I found, with thick enough mulch pretty well. What else do we have? I think I said clover. We have a lot of dock. Tons of marigold, the creeping Charlie, and like a lot of things I just don't even know what it is. Now, speaking of the weed, hopefully Todd will put a clip in here for you guys. The really, really long ropey weed that showed up in my garden 2 years ago and has literally invaded it is a thistle. I don't exactly remember what type of thistle it is, but sure enough, I'm looking to spy. I see more black-eyed Susan popping up over here. I'm looking to spy if I see any of the leaves, because I've pulled quite a bit out right here. But sure enough, they are. It gets like a purple flower on it. It's not a milk thistle. I don't know what it is. And I had no idea thistles grew. I don't know if all do or just this type. So I'm going to research it before I burn all that, because that's a lot of potential herbal goodness before I get rid of it. Not that I'm not going to get rid of it, just if there's a chance to harvest a whole bunch while it's here, let me do that early this spring. But I was surprised, and it was one viewer. You guys had tons of ideas, but when I would research them, I'm like, yep, that's not it. Yep, that's not it. And then one viewer said, it's thistle. I was like, really? And Googled it, and sure enough, it is. So cow thistle, maybe? Can't remember, but I know it came in on that compost. Alrighty, I've got about a third of this bed left to go, and then we're gonna get pulling up tarps. Well, we got it done. And now my rhubarb, you can see it. But there's still a little bit of the kind of similar to what was growing behind me that I showed you, the little grasses, and next set of weed seed germinating. So I'm not gonna have time to flame torch this today. But that's what I'll do. So I'll go through and flame weed it. And all we have left in this front section, just so we're 100% transparent, is this set of Creeping Charlie, which has my old strawberries growing in it that the Creeping Charlie is now choking out. So my plan is to, where I don't want the strawberries over here because they're growing down the wall, I'm going to transplant up in this bed here and then get the rest of that Creeping Charlie out. And this isn't too matted, so it's coming out fairly easy. But I'm happy with the work that I got done. That was, I know, short in your time, but it was probably, I don't know, an hour and a half or so my time. And now we're gonna go get all this landscaping fabric rolled up. So what I've found with the landscaping fabric is that I only used it the one season and I hate it. I hate it for the reason that it didn't work for my watering style. This is a commercial grower landscape fabric, and you really need like tape irrigation to irrigate it properly. And I just use an overhead sprinkler, and we just don't have the means to run irrigation out here like that. So it worked pretty good for stopping weeds. Like this has been lifted from the staples being pulled up last year from the weeds underneath getting light. Weeds will grow in any holes that you make, but everywhere else the weeds stayed pretty well. And I'll show you that when I pull up this other one. Pretty well contained. This is Creeping Charlie underneath the weed mat, and it has crept underneath it and grown out the other side. So kind of making me a little worried about my ability to smother this. I think I'm just going to have to stay on top of it coming in. Another idea that we've had is going around the outside of my garden, because Creeping Charlie grows throughout our entire yard, is going around the outside of my garden with an actual weed killer. I don't know what I'm going to use yet, whether it's just like ammonia, straight ammonia or something like that, and try to kill it from even just wanting to come in my garden space. And if I can contain it from the outside, I think I'll have a better chance of containing it from the inside. I've not dealt with slugs too much. Roly-polies, yes. Slugs, not a ton. And so slugs are under here, and we've never had a problem with voles before in my garden, and I had voles tunneling, and they ate almost all my sweet potatoes last year. So I feel like it's just a great habitat for pests that I haven't had before. And I found that in certain areas, my soil was terrible underneath it just from lack of nourishment. And I don't know. I think there's a lot for me to learn about using it if I'm ever going to use it again. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that. It didn't work for me, and I'm not professional enough to want to try risking another garden season with it. So you're going to start seeing, hopefully you can see where weeds are popping up through where holes were. And we took most of the staples out last year except that end, because we had potatoes growing all down here, and just laid the landscape fabric down and didn't tighten it back down. So when you do use it, you should keep it really tight. And you'll see on the other one that all the staples are still there for the most part. It definitely does a better job at keeping weeds down. But if there's any light or airflow, the airflow and light that can get in there really is just optimal conditions for these weeds to take over. And this is all that thistle stuff, Thistle and Creeping Charlie. So you may wonder, why did I hand weed that bed and I'm flame weeding the others. That took like, I don't know, an hour and a half or so to do that half of the bed. This would take forever for me to get through there and get all the roots out of something this invasive. So we're torching it several times and then doing a really heavy hay layer to see if we can't suppress this. And I guess you guys will just have to come for the garden season and see if anything of it is successful. The first probably 5 years of my garden was so manageable. And then, I think you get lazy a year here or there, and pretty soon you're in a losing battle constantly with weeds if you're not heavy mulching. Now you guys are going to see this bed. I have not weeded this. This is very, very, very little weed pressure. And this is the bed that I had my sweet potatoes in last year that the bulls got to. And it is just void of life. You would not expect to see this. I mean, you saw this bed, right? And you saw the back bed. Why doesn't this bed look like this? It is a dead bed. There is very little life-sustaining nourishment in this bed, and it was really disheartening to see that happen. And I don't know, honestly, if it was a combination of the two, the voles and the weed fabric, but I got very little water penetration in this garden. That was, it's the highest end of my garden too, versus that end. And what I found with this landscape fabric is water will run off of it. If it's just a heavy rain, it's just gonna run. Some water does seep in, but not enough for what a plant needs. So, kind of just showing you different demonstrations of why I don't like it, I guess, and how it acted in my garden. And I know some people love it, and maybe it works better in other climates, but I really think it has to do with a lot to do with your watering solution. I'm not sure how well this is going to show up on camera because it's all brown, but maybe you can hear it in my mic. Crunch, crunch. This was all Creeping Charlie. As I was walking through, I noticed two spots where maybe Todd was doing this. Maybe it was too thick or he didn't hold the flame there quite enough. But it's super dead on the top. I'm going to pull some weeds. I know the weeds aren't dead. I'll just tell you that. They're firmly rooted in the ground. So the weeds are still healthy and vibrant, but they wouldn't stay that way if there wasn't live green that could photosynthesize and take, nourishment back down to the roots. So the idea is flame weed this a few times to make sure it's done, and hopefully kill it back before we put the hay on there. I don't know just yet. It just depends on rush versus time. If I'm going to take that risk with the thistle vine, I don't think that stuff just seems way too vigorous. And the way it can grow underground and then come up again. So I don't know that I'm going to chance that, and that's that whole back bed that I was discussing with you guys with the potatoes and how weedy it was with that thistle vine. So I wish I could say for certain that I was going to pull that up, but I know myself also well enough to know that here's the thing about me, and I've said this lots of times. I don't like I'll say it in kind of 3 different ways. I like easy gardening, number 1. And it's not that I don't like doing things that are hard. Like I love manual labor. If you watch our cabin video and stuff, you know that about me. Like I really like manual labor. But I like the reward that comes from manual labor versus if I'm defeated, I don't want to do it again. I hate the feeling of defeat. And I've felt so defeated in my garden the last few times that it makes me want to give up. And I guess how do I push through that in case you're feeling that way is I know what success looks like. I know I've done it. I know I can do it. And it's just pushing me out of my comfort zone to learn more about new weeds, to try new efforts to manage it. But I know I love gardening enough that sometimes being defeated and the hard things are worth it. So I'll just leave you with that own little encouragement and pep talk to myself. And maybe you can take something from it. So I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye guys.